All right, I am excited for this episode today here. So, I want to tell you how to make 100 posts of content a day, right? Now, making and repurposing, I'm going to just kind of count as the same thing right here. So, just kind of take that with a grain of salt. Repurposing, syndicating, and creating are all going to be part of this strategy, right? You're not going to just be making 100 tweets and call it a day. You might be making one post on YouTube and then it'll go to automatically to Twitter, and that's two posts because you have one on YouTube and one on Twitter. That's like just throwing it out there. That is how we're going to understand it, okay? This particular post today is going to be a video. I already started writing a blog post. I'm going to cut out the audio, make a podcast. So I have all three major content types right there. Formatting wise, it is a long form video, long form podcast and blog post. However, I'm going to take that I'm going to take that video, turn it into clips, probably using a couple clips from Substack, but more than likely throwing this into Opus clip and getting a few more clips on there. Actually, one thing I have been doing, I was very hesitant at first to do this, but then I realized, why not? What's the pain of it? I don't quite like how Substack makes clips. It's just not the greatest clips, but sometimes they're pretty good. Like it's a very stark contrast. It's either really good or really bad. And the really bad, I don't really blame it because it's just the same as any other clipping tool, right? But the clips that it does find that are really good, it's actually sometimes even better than Opus, where that same clip might be 60 seconds in Opus, it's actually 1 minute and 26 seconds from Substack. Now, in Opus, the captions are a lot better. I can change the colors, not the stupid Substack orange. It also reformats it way better in Opus. Opus clip, I can actually have this viewport right here of me talking, whereas in Substack, it just takes the entire view frame and makes it fit in the middle of the screen. Not a big deal, but that makes a difference in viewable quality as a viewer on YouTube Shorts, for example. So we're not going to get into that right now, but it automatically makes those two clips, and you can actually find more. And usually what I do is I find the horizontal clips from my video, and there's usually a couple that I like. I'll take the title that Substack generates, because for some reason it doesn't actually take that when you share the post. So I copy that, I share the post, I replace the text or put it above the text when I share it. Sometimes it says like subscribe to see the full video or something like that when it posts. So that way you can kind of promote it before it comes out, which is kind of nice. I actually wouldn't promote before I post something if it wasn't for that. So that's kind of cool, worth noting. And so I can usually make a couple posts right there. I usually only post a couple clips. That's fine. Now, I wish I could post some of my episodes without emailing my subscribers, because not everything needs to go out as an email. I wish there was an option for that, but really it's either all or nothing. And so what I've been doing for live streams is I just haven't been posting. I haven't been like telling people that I've been doing them. So there's a ton of content actually for you if you want to go check that out. And so the point is I have all three major content types. And then from there, you have a couple different clips that you're posting pre-release. After release, once it automatically schedules to YouTube, technically I count that as a separate post because you're posting on video on Substack, but you're also posting on YouTube, so that's two posts right there. If you want to get into it, technically speaking, by posting the podcast, you're posting to presumably Amazon Podcast, although I don't know if Substack actually does that. Maybe it syndicates with Apple, but I don't think so. But let's say you are Apple, Amazon, and Spotify. That's three platforms right there. Technically speaking, that's three different posts. I'm going to count that as three different posts, but it is just one podcast. But it's being syndicated across three different major platforms. And at the very least, Apple and Spotify being the main ones, that's what matters. So two posts there. And then it comes up with two YouTube Shorts that it's automatically picking and posting for you. Now, I want to also preface this. I've been saying this in multiple videos because it's frustrating, and I've been reaching out to Substack multiple times about it. And whenever I post a video post on Substack and it automatically posts to YouTube, it does not copy the thumbnail, which is really annoying. It's only done it once successfully. I actually make sure it's under 2 megabytes, so I know for a fact that it's not the size causing the issue. It has actually missed 3 videos out of the 13 that I've done so far, which is really bad. I had to go in there and re-upload it myself, which I shouldn't have to do that. And then on top of that too, I've had some issues just otherwise in general with just like the editing of it in Substack. It's just like AI enhancing things did not work at all. So wanted to throw that out there for anybody using this feature right now as of August 2025. But again, you get the idea. It's going across all these different platforms. I'm making clips before and after. It's doing it automatically. I might share them manually, but it's doing it automatically. And if you're doing this live, that I kind of count a live as a separate piece of content because you're doing it in the moment and then it goes out later on as a video post. So that's 2 different posts right there. And the live is nice because you can get more people coming in. So, and it also posts into the Substack Notes feed when you're going live. So that's another post. at the end of all this, you're getting like a dozen posts just from making the one episode. And if you were to throw it into Opus Clip, you could even more clips. If you were to go ahead and make quote images using either Placid.app or Banner Bear automatically, that's cool. Otherwise, you can go into Canva and make them yourself. And so there's just so many things you can be doing to increase the output that you're doing as a content creator. Now, I'm telling you this in a simple way. It's really simple, right? It's not that hard to figure out. You can do all this stuff in Substack and other tools sort of, but this has it all in one, which is why I'm on here right now. But in practice, it is not easy for you as a content creator to think about all these different steps. For me, I've been doing it for so long that I just know it intuitively. Like I make sure I click the little checkbox here and there. For example, when you're posting to YouTube, you actually have to go into the once you click publish, there's options for the podcast. I had to go in there and click full episode, right? I have to make sure it's posting as a full episode. I had to go into the YouTube one and check the checkbox, don't use the Substack logo overlay, right? There's a watermark. I don't want that on my video. And so I had to tell it no. And then sometimes I might go into the clips and choose a different clip to post as a YouTube short. And then other times too, the YouTube description is usually just pulling from the subtitle, and that's not good. Usually I need an actual description for YouTube. So I usually go in there and do those little extra steps too that I'm not telling you right now. And I don't want to just bore you with information. Here's a 10 by 10 step guide. I'll do that later on if you're really interested. But my point being is that if you're just starting out, or maybe you are just now starting a new content type, like you've been a blogger for years, but now you're finally doing video posts, now you're finally doing audio, this can seem overwhelming. And that's why I'm making this video today. Your first 100 reps to 100 posts a day. Your first 100 reps is very important. If you do not understand how to make a video or a blog post or a podcast from the ground up, actually making that piece of content, you are not going to understand how to properly repurpose it later on. I am talking into the mic right now. I'm using my hand gestures, but if you're listening in on this, you're not going to see those hand gestures. However, I'm also not really doing anything very descriptive or needing of any more auditory describing. And so I don't need to actually go out of my way to make this episode a little bit more understandable in the audio sense. You can listen to this and understand what I'm saying just fine. The hand gestures are just me being expressive, right? If I were showing you a chart, then I would have to be more descriptive audibly in order for the podcast to actually be more worthwhile. Now, these are just different things you have to learn just by making that piece of content. And so what I want to really drive home to you today is that you need to have 100 reps in blog posts, 100 reps in videos, and 100 reps in podcast. I say that I would actually rather you have 300 reps. Now, I think this is the first time I've straight up said that. I don't think anyone else has actually said it at this point. If you want to be good and you want to be growing as fast as possible, you need to get to 300 reps in each as quickly as possible. Let me say it again. If you want to grow rapidly, you need to get 300 reps in all three content types, and then you can execute on all cylinders. That's what I'm trying to do right now, and I think I'm doing all right, but I'm kind of neglecting my other brands and my other series that I'm doing, which is what I made my live stream about yesterday, and so that I posted this morning, ironically. But the thing is, my point is, I'm starting to fire more and more on all cylinders because I have a few hundred reps in podcasts, a few hundred reps in videos, and 800 reps in blog posts. I know what I'm doing, so I'm able to actually execute at a higher level more often. And that's what I want for you. I want you to be like that too. I'm not bragging. I'm just saying I have a lot of experience, and it's honestly all I think about is content, right? I'm weird like that. I like content, and I want to share that weirdness with you so that I can benefit you as a content creator so you don't have to work as hard. So, I mean, between 100 and 300 is fine. If once you get 100 reps, that's kind of the baseline. I think a lot of people are trying to start out and trying to do all three at once, but they don't know what to do, right? I'm writing a blog post after I make this video, or vice versa. I'm making them from scratch. I'm not just repurposing one into the other. I am cutting out the audio, so at least then I don't have to worry about audio at all, which is one reason why I really like Substack right now, because I like how these become a podcast. These are very good episodes to make into podcasts because they're just all information dumping. That's all these episodes are. And so 100 reps seems like a lot, but you can get that done in 3 months. You can just push an extra 10 reps over the course of 3 months. That's easy, right? You do 1 rep a day for 3 months, and I don't think necessarily you should do all 3 in those 3 months because that's going to be really overwhelming. I think the max you can do is maybe like 2 content types. Maybe you're doing like a blog and a YouTube channel at the same time, kind of hold off on the podcast until later. You could mix and match, but I think that might be the smartest idea. Like start a YouTube channel, start a newsletter, and get used to both content types. There is a difference between newsletter posts and blog posts. I'm treating them as both in this series, kind of as one, but normally on my actual blog, I have a lot longer winded explanations. And so there is this, if you want to know like what I think about timing wise, I can make an episode about that. So please leave a comment down below if you really are interested in that. But I think that, like, just for an example right now, you have 3 months, right? And in that 3 months, you do 1 rep a day, 1 video a day, 1 newsletter a day. And maybe you're only sending out 1 newsletter a week so you don't spam your email audience, but you are posting every day. I think that is wise because it's still going to go on to Substack notes and you can still automatically share to all these different platforms. I didn't even get into Nuelink and automatically sharing across written platforms and Pinterest and stuff like that. So that is, let's say this is 90 days because you don't know. If it's February, it's obviously less than 30 days. If it's some other months, you might have more than 30 days. We're not going to count that. We're just going to say every month is 30 days just for sake of ease. And so you have 3 months, each one 30 days. You're doing 1 a day. That's 90 posts. So within that 3 months, you have to do a double up day where you're posting twice in 1 day. That's not a big deal. Maybe you're making a special episode or maybe you're making a personal episode, something like that, a personal anecdote episode. So that's 90 posts in 90 days plus an extra 10 scattered throughout. Maybe there's a holiday you can take advantage of or something like that. And so you have 100 posts in 90 days. I think you can do that. That's very palatable. It's not easy to do daily, right? But if you want to accelerate it, that is the best way to do it. And then after that, you start going to one post a week. And you tell your audience, like on the last few posts of that 100-day sprint or 90-day sprint, you are going to be like, hey, I'm going to go to a weekly cadence now because I'm going to change up my strategy a little bit. I'm going to start going a little bit slower, take a little bit of a break, right? You're doing 1 a week, so you can kind of take a few weeks to kind of recover after doing all that creative output. Let yourself learn, go take a vacation. You're still posting once a week, but just take some time to recuperate your energy and creative expression. And then after 2 or 3 weeks, you start a podcast. And after you start that podcast, at this point, you can decide maybe 2 or 3 posts a week. And you can decide whether or not you want to do 3 podcasts a week, 2 to 3 podcasts a week, or doing all 3 times a week. And so you can just do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, right? That's a cool, different cadence. And depending on which one you choose, either one is fine. But the point is you're getting that experience back again. And so you already have a lot of experience with written and video at this point. And so you can start posting more podcasts and get used to that one as well, especially if you're just cutting out the audio like I am with this episode. And so then you start to get like another 3 months. You're doing 3 times a week. Let's see, 3 times 3. How many posts is that? You're about halfway there at that point. And so you're going to get maybe 45 episodes into your podcast. It's not enough to really know what you're doing just yet, but it's enough to kind of get an idea. And you just keep that going for the rest of the year. And I think that by the time you get to the end of the year, you're going to have a lot more practice. You're going to have, let's say, 150 videos, 150 blog posts, and roughly by the end of the year, like 70 podcasts. So you're going to have a lot more experience. At that point, you can decide, do I want to do all 3 now continuously, or do I want to just kind of, again, change things up, maybe do 1 a week, that kind of thing. Again, you are just trying to get to that first 100 reps as quickly as possible, but as sustainably as possible. That's why I'm making this video today and this podcast today, because I want you to be able to actually express your creative control and be able to do more. But if you try to do it too fast and too much, you are going to burn out. That's what happened to me, actually. At the tail end of 2017, I was creating so much content. I also had a lot of health issues, especially with my teeth and stuff like that at the time. I burned out really bad. I burned out so bad, I stopped working out, I stopped reading, I stopped playing video games, let alone making content. And it wasn't until January 2018 where the only thing I could get myself to do, besides work, obviously, like actual job, was to just read Gary Vee's books. I read 5 of his books in the span of a month. It was the only thing I could anchor to, and I'm glad I did, because first off, it taught me a lot more about content and business again, but it was able to just get me out of that hole. And from there, I started making content again, but it took years before I was able to get back to a higher cadence again. And not only that, too, in 2020 is when I started doing interviews, so I stopped doing content as a solo creator as much. So that took me away from making my progress towards that 100 reps. And so that's my point, where like you don't want to burn out, you want to get that cadence down, and I'm trying to give you a time frame and a strategy to employ to get to that first 100 reps. Because the sooner you get to the first 100 reps, then you'll understand how to do 100 posts a day. Because Gary Vee screamed at the top of his lungs, you need to be posting 100 times a day. And it's still true. In 2022, and even 2023, maybe even 2021, I was telling people on TikTok, you should be posting 5 to 10 times a day on TikTok, just TikTok alone. And I still was barely getting 2 to 3 times a day myself because it's hard. And I wasn't repurposing content at that time either because there was no tools to do it, and I didn't have the time to go in through DaVinci Resolve to cut up the clips. Now you have no excuse because there's so many clipping tools, not just Opus Clip. There's 60 different copycats out there. Not to mention Substack has clipping built into it too. You can at least get a few clips there. And depending on how long your video is, you might even be able to get more. And so there's no excuse now for making clips. But now TikTok is basically on its deathbed, I would say. Like I'm very much adamant about saying that because I think that there is this slowdown over the last 2 years that TikTok is no longer as good, especially ever since the ban on TikTok. It's just not been the same. And there's still Instagram Reels, and that's definitely a great place to be, but Instagram is not really showing your stuff anymore. I actually lost like 40,000 views in the last month because Instagram stopped showing my content as much. And I'm not the only one. I've been on threads every day, and people have been saying the same thing for the last 2 weeks. So there's a lot of changes going on with short form video. And if you missed that opportunity back in 2021, 2022, then what are you doing, right? Okay, what's the point? But there is other platforms, and I think Substack is one of those underutilized platforms right now. So if you can go ahead and just try to watch the platforms, be a content creator on those platforms, but even just a content consumer, you can see the patterns, and there's going to be a new platform coming out in the next couple of years. I'm sure of it. And if you can try to be a first mover on there, that would be great. And so just get the experience now. So when the next platform is out, you can take advantage of it and not be overwhelmed. And so that's the point. Like, right, once you can understand that there's these waves that happen and you just try to ride the wave, that's what's going to help you grow. I'm going to stop rambling now. It's already 17 minutes, which is longer than a lot of these episodes. But I hope you listen to me well. Get those 100 reps as soon as possible because then it'll lead you to doing 100 posts a day.